So good afternoon to all our attendees. My name is Mark and I'll be your moderator for this second panel discussion with the theme Redesign, Buoying the Market Through Changes. As the real estate industry adapts to the new normal, we have seen trends emerge for future developments that have changed the industry landscape, from the process of purchasing property to the lifestyle demands of our residential, commercial and leisure developments. In this session, we will dive into the immediate impact of the pandemic and the existing projects and their investors, the trends that have emerged as a result and that may be here to stay, and finally, what can be done now and in the longer term to build resilience into your business model and maximize the pace of the recovery. We have a great panel for you this afternoon, so I'm very pleased to introduce first of all Joey Bondoc, Research Manager at Colliers, Philippines. Hi Joey. We have Emma Imperial, President of Imperial Homes Corporation, developers of low-cost homes across Luzon with a strong focus on green building and sustainability. We have Samaniego, Editor at Philippine Daily Inquirer Property, providing real estate news, insights and industry updates through Philippine Daily Inquirer. We have Felix, Chairman of the Board at the Subdivision and Housing Developers Association, the country's major and leading organization of real estate developers, and also President and CEO of Phinma Properties, catering predominantly to the affordable segment with mid to high-rise buildings, mostly in Metro Manila. And last but not least, we have Tomas Lorenzo, Chief Executive Officer at Torre Lorenzo Development Corporation, known for their student-focused vertical projects and five-star leisure developments. Thank you everyone for joining us. Looking forward to your insights throughout the session. So to kick off today's discussion, I'd like to ask broadly about the initial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the market, specific to your own experiences. And I'd like to start with Tomas Lorenzo. What immediate changes in behavior did Torre Lorenzo note specific to your projects and your investors?
Okay, well, for us, since we have our main projects, we were affected by the pandemic, but surprisingly, we've been able to continue and manage our projects properly with the new, with the new situation. Our buyers and our residents are still managed by our property group. We've had to, of course, move digitally for our sales, and that really led to a transformation for our corporation to go digital from the usual brick and mortar flyering and joining of golf tournaments.
Okay, so the kind of marketing specific then, it really a transition to connecting with your investors via digital channels.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to Emma Imperial. As a developer of affordable housing across Luzon, is there anything specific to your segment, perhaps to the subdivision specifically, that you noticed as an immediate impact of the pandemic?
Our product became more relevant during the pandemic, and we're very fortunate that our average sales from the time that we launched our tough video in May, that was like 2 months after the COVID, the sales became 40% higher than our pre-COVID performance. So we saw the product attracting the buyers because of probably the solar savings. Because during the lockdown, many of the people are staying at home, they work from home, and then they started enjoying that kind of savings from the solar. So from 2,500 pesos that they pay, they only pay 200 pesos a month. So that's the first thing that really attracted them. And the other thing that we noticed is that the millennials are 65% of our buyers. So the performance of the sales with the millennials coming in just shows that they like sustainability products right now, because before the pandemic, usually the millennials do not really care about investing in houses. They would care about buying cars or even buying their gadgets. But because of this data we have, we saw that they like the houses that we build, which are made of ultra high performance concrete, and we advertise this as a product. Ultra high performance concrete really prevents viruses and bacteria. So it just so happened that all the things that we're doing about sustainability and resiliency fit the pandemic times. And the other thing that we really did was get into digitalization. So the second day of the lockdown, we were able to connect with through work chat and Facebook, and Mark Bailey, really taught us how to get digital in sales. So we're now using Selly very well. So we're able to monitor all our salespeople. So we're also able to get the virtual tour for the buyers. So the success in the sales was really a combination of the product and being connected digitally. So these are the things that we saw in the market. And of course, the people are going to areas outside of the CBDs.
Yeah. Thank you. Interesting notes there. So I think, obviously people spending more time indoors. I think we've all had larger electric bills than we would have had previously. You've noted a demand shift there, perhaps towards millennials that are perhaps being more sensible with their money and looking to invest in real estate. And again, consistent with Tomas in terms of the digitalization of the way that you connect with the audience. I'll come on to Pete now. Pete, if you could put your Shedder hat on for me. So as chairman at Shedder, an organization really designed specifically to unite the common interests of your member developers. What would you say has been the single most important challenge for developers to overcome to keep their businesses afloat since March?
Well, as an industry, I think the biggest problem of all developers would be their financials this year. And the accounting rules of the country, what we use is percentage of completion as our basis for revenue recognition. So a three month stoppage in construction is huge for income recognition, for revenue recognition. But the bright spot here is that the residential market is strong. It's very strong, actually. So I think most developers are experiencing that. There are some that might have stopped selling during the ECQ, but some went on. Obviously, for those that have stopped during the ECQ period, it will have a good, significant effect also on their sales volume. But for those that did not stop selling, immediately after the 16th of March, you would have felt, everybody would have felt a significant drop. But by the first week of April, those numbers were climbing back up.
Okay, so I guess the pause in construction leading to, I guess, cash flow issues there. 3 months is a long time to stop building. You're right to say, but absolutely the industry is resilient, particularly for residential. Joey, I wonder if you have any thoughts on what you've seen in terms of that specific financial challenge and what successful strategies have been put in place, without precedent, to be able to kind of weather that storm.
Well, overall, Mark, what we have seen in the market is that for at least the first 3 months of 2020, we were pleasantly surprised that the residential market in Metro Manila still recorded a pretty decent take-up. We recorded about 10,000 units of condominiums being taken up all over Metro Manila. So that is still a pretty good figure. You have to note that Metro Manila overall is a supply driven market. And of course, we had some construction issues during the first 3 months, especially during the latter half of March. There were slower launches in the market. That's why we somehow saw slower take up. However, we're seeing also a demand that is coming from a lot of segments. You have students, employees. They're looking for healthy, safe buildings all over Metro Manila. They want to be in a condominium where there is enough space where they can work, because as you know, we are under a very large work from home experiment right now. Some of them are looking for condominium units within integrated communities, those where they can have immediate access to food and beverage and even health services. And surprisingly, when we did our survey, Colliers International, during our July 30 briefing, some investors that are looking for second, third residential units are looking at areas outside of Metro Manila. They're planning to invest in areas that are less dense. And also, we have noticed that the developers that were able to pivot and shift immediately to digital platforms were the ones that were really doing well, at least for the first 3 months of 2020. So while there is somehow a slower take up because of slower launches in the market, we're seeing a lot of trends, and we believe that these trends will continue and will help prop up demand in the market for the remainder of 2020.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. I'll come to tech now. Tech, from your perspective as a leading media outlet for the industry, are you able to give some examples of how developers were able to adapt immediately? And I guess you've seen the transition from traditional to digital over the years. So was that accelerated?
Hi everyone. Hi Mark. Actually, in the case of the Philippine Daily Inquirer, the first thing that we noticed when the lockdown was implemented was that everybody went into a wait and see stance. So actually, it doesn't really matter whether the developer is online or offline. The challenge lies actually on how you will be able to translate that intent into an actual process of buying. So people now have become more interested on the things that this particular developer can offer. They have started looking for better deals and discounts, and they also demanded more from the developers, given the changes in their preferences. During the pandemic and the stringent lockdowns, many have actually seen the value of living in mixed-use developments, integrated communities, estates or townships, or at least be near and have easy access to groceries, banks, offices, and medical facilities. And while many may have opted to go digital, still the challenge actually was how to be able to entice these buyers who are actually now holding on to their hard-earned money, because everything now seems to be uncertain. But over the last few weeks, we have seen that the property sector is slowly already trying to stabilize, and people are now also seeing the value of actually investing in a property that is well built, that is smart, and at the same time can provide the so-called new essentials. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Tech. Interesting stuff. I think there's some definite themes there. Digitalization is obviously key for connecting to the not just your potential new investors, but also existing communities in terms of the transfer of information. Emma's noted a kind of strong take up with her sustainable development. So I guess more demand there for, as you say as well, tech quality developments, offering savings with solar, and I guess looking back at Pete's comments, the 3-month stoppage has now over. So what can be done to really accelerate the recovery and kind of regain some of that fallout. So now that we've explored that initial impact on the industry, we've touched on these trends a little bit now, but let's dive a bit more into those trends that we've seen and how they've developed over time. So Emma, you touched on technology. As the years unfolded, I think that there has been a number of trends that were new, but also, you know, existing trends that have now been accelerated. So technology is a great example of that. So how really has technology enabled Imperial Homes to remain buoyant these past months?
I think we started our solar powered community in 2015, and we launched that. And then in 2017, we launched our innovation from Denmark. It's like the speed of building these homes is like one house a day. So I think when you talk about technology now, even the way you do things in the office is going to be the next feature. And we just want to inform everyone that we are almost launching the PropTech consortium, which is this is a consortium of not only real estate developer but also other technologies. And this is the brainchild of myself and Amor Maclang. We co-founded the Property Technology Consortium of the Philippines. It's going to be the first and only property technology alliance that aims to accelerate the transformation of the Philippines into a thriving, smart, sustainable, and resilient nation through innovation and technology. So who are the consortium's participants here? These are the industries from anywhere from tech and innovation, real estate, and sustainability. So mainly we're looking at helping everyone to, we're committed to elevate the growth potential of the property development into a higher level, where all the technologies should be combined in order to to raise the Filipino standard of living. And we're not just talking about building technology, we're not just talking about climate change or the solar, but we're also talking about financial technology. And this is what's happening to us now. We're having a hard time because even if we can build, like we can sell, we can build, but the banks are closed, they're hardly open for developers. They're only there twice a week, so they're not ready. So we need to look at all these industries together, so that the properties in the entire Philippines can really form an alliance with other technologies. So we have already done the founding members, and we have Tito Ortiz. We have also Tech and Innovation Ron Hos joining in. Jopin Romero is Tech and Innovation. Carrie Lagdameo is Real Estate, and Kathy Saldana and Sylvester Wong. Also, so it's from different industries. We're also bringing in, I think, Sprout for HR. Okay. So this is what happened during the pandemic. We started thinking, how do we address everything together in order to make property development survive? Because I feel that it's not going to be finished soon. It's going to continue and continue. So this is our thrust right now, Mark, and we hope everybody will join in this this alliance for the Philippines.
That sounds really interesting, Emma. Thank you. And I think you know, the point here is that it's not just real estate specifically when it comes to technology. You know, if you've got the technology to be able to continue building, but there isn't the technology in place to be able to continue selling, then neither kind of work together there. So I guess a more holistic approach to technological advancements. Thank you for that. Thomas, back to you in terms of the trends that you've seen. Joey did mention there, you know, increased demand for students in Metro Manila looking for, you know, better spaces, I think is maybe a broad title for that. Perhaps you could comment on any kind of product or location trends that have emerged as a result of the crisis.
Hey, Mark, thanks for that. I guess because of the education budget of the Filipino, which takes up a huge portion of their disposable income, we see ourselves as still, you know, having a product that is in demand. However, the market has gotten more difficult because they're more demanding. So besides the usual location, product quality, amenities, and building management, they're really looking for example, the best high-speed internet that you can offer. And so we were fortunate to really go fiber early on in our buildings to improve the internet. And then I'm always asked about schools going online. Will that affect our business? And then I tell people not really, because there are courses which have to be face-to-face. How can you take chemistry, medicine, engineering, and the like online? And I said most universities really are set up to have face-to-face classes. So what all that has happened is that the schools have deferred these classes by a semester, which is the right thing to do. And at the same time, we've been able to, explain to our residents that yes, you can take your classes online and you can live 400, 500 miles away. But if something goes wrong with the internet, how are you going to get your info? So it's good to be near the schools, yet safe, in a building which manages your safety as much as they can. So we've spent so much on really improving our safety in our buildings, and it's worked out very well. So we still have residents who have stayed in their condominiums, and because we have a lot of open space in our buildings, then they feel that there's a place for them to hang out. Our roof decks, our roof deck gardens, people hang out because there's way more social distancing in our buildings than some of these people have in their homes. So that is being done right now. We've also moved forward with developing really outside of Metro Manila. So it's very good that Joey mentioned that, because outside of Metro Manila, we really see as the next wave, because people really want to go out, and realizing that technology now allows people to work remotely means that there will be many people post-pandemic who will consider really living outside. But it's really meant for people who are looking to have a provincial lifestyle and yet have the amenities of a condominium. And lastly, what's important is that really the amenities and the commercial establishments within your buildings should really be catered to the residents. We don't sell our commercial spaces in our buildings, because we want to make sure that the commercial spaces there are really for the residents. That's why they're banks, laundries, food establishments, which help keep the residents safe, and they don't end up wandering far from the building. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. I just want to extend that slightly and look at the, I guess, hospitality. You have some projects in hospitality, although you're not perhaps directly involved with running it. But how do you see the hospitality industry recovering, and any developers looking to kind of invest in future developments of the same? Is that likely to change in terms of the product itself? If I may, Mark. Well, we do have hotels. Our hotels are connected to our condominium developments, and we see them as more of amenities to our residential developments. And again, long-term play. And we don't do standalone hotels. They're actually part of a larger development
which includes commercial spaces, business establishments, shops, and the like. So it's, I guess if you do leisure, it must really be connected with a larger planned development, which is what we're doing in Davao, Pampanga, and in Batangas, in Lipa City.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. I'm going to move on to tech now. Sticking with the buyers, I think there are some trends. Location diversity is really important. Definitely open spaces, safety, amenities in the kind of local area. All things that are in demand now. Is there anything else in terms of the buyer trends that you've noticed from Inquirer Property as a result of perhaps the take-up in terms of the content that you're publishing, and what marketing strategies have developers adopted to kind of move with these times and highlight this value?
Okay, Mark, one thing is clear, and one thing that we've likewise noticed during the pandemic was that for the buyers, it's no longer enough to simply have that live, work, play component. Okay, some are actually looking for bigger open areas now, spaces that will allow them to live sustainably, like maybe having a small patch of garden to work at. And then there are also those who prefer to have a satellite clinic now within their community. From my observation also, it seems that people have placed so much value in health, safety, and security, plus not to mention technology. People have become more discerning, and many are now willing to actually spend or pay a premium for such features. Also, I think developers will need to actually level up in terms of highlighting such features in their projects if they want to really entice buyers. If applicable, developers should be able to showcase previous projects that they've done that offer such features. I think contactless technology is now the new normal. It's now an essential. It's no longer just a perk, but it's the way to go. And then in terms of marketing, I think it's very important to have that 360-degree approach. I mean, being able to get in touch with your buyer and to be able to present to them in whatever platform there is that is available right now. Because you see, it's a very highly competitive market, and the most important thing is to be able to actually reach out to your buyers and provide them the necessary information, and of course, a high value investment.
Okay, thank you, Tech. Pete, if I'll move on to you for your projects under Phinma Properties. There has been a pivot towards a more luxury development with some recent project launches under the Phinma brand. I wonder, have there been any kind of demand shifts towards that kind of luxury? How has that segment performed for you guys?
Actually, Mark, I think all segments are doing great now. I don't think there's any one that we can single out. Our affordable market developments are went back to pre-ECQ sales rates as early as mid-April. Of course, the medium that we've been using has always been digital. I mean, we were one of your first clients in Lamudi ever since before. You know, digital is just a more cost-effective way of marketing. So we've been doing it even way before the pandemic. So at that level, what's this? The sales rate is back to pre-ECQ levels, and this was early on. In reference to the buyer demographic, yes, there is a change. I agree that a lot more millennials are now buying. We used to have an average age of 30 to 40. Our 20 to 30-year-old market segment has doubled in the last 3 months. The need to be in a CBD is not that important anymore because of work from home or split operations. I don't see I don't see work from home lasting forever. It's a challenge here in this country, but at the very least, you'll have some kind of split operations, which will allow you to work from home on several days of the week, and then go report to the office several days of the week. So the need for a CBD is not as important as it used to be, but so insofar as
how about the priorities of the the existing demand? Is there have there been any kind of new pain points with the clients? Are they looking at different points of the projects that they perhaps weren't considering before?
I would think so. I would think there's a preference for lower density developments, and that's one of the things that I attribute to our projects. I mean, I have 5-story condos. I have 5-story condos in an enclosed compound rather than 30, 40-story condos. So I think that was one of the pluses that we had, which drove to a positive experience during the ECQ and post ECQ months, right? Our Alabang project is getting a lot of. We've had about more than 100 trippings, and unfortunately, I don't have ready for occupancy units yet. But since the beginning of June, I've had about 100 buyers for that high-end project visit the site. So I mean, there's really a change. I can see the regions happening. A lot of our new projects are in the regions. I agree with what has been said, that a lot of the developments are moving towards the regions. So, but I guess all told, the health of the market is very much there. I'd like to relate it to your other topic about about real estate being the right investment at this time, right?
Yeah.
But having said that, I think we can only hope that the financial markets are more receptive. There is still a lot of wait and see in the financial sector, and therefore that's what's slowing down the real estate industry. But if it wasn't for that, the market is very much there.
Okay, thank you, Pete. It's great to note that we've had two times now a kind of shift towards millennials, and I've been trying to think about why that might be. And I guess the immediate answer could be that they're not perhaps able to spend as much on kind of leisure and retail at the moment, so they're saving money there. But it's great to have that investment from that age group. Joey, based on your research and looking more kind of ahead now, I guess, I mean, are there any trends that are still to emerge? Anything that you can kind of forecast as developing over the final quarter of 2020? Aside from locational diversity, low density, easy access to amenities, what is it that you see progressing into the future?
Well, Mike, we've been seeing a lot of companies implementing business continuity plans. Okay, so those that were Metro Manila centric initially are now looking at expanding outside of Metro Manila. So, for instance, for companies that we are assisting in terms of their leasing requirements, they've been expanding to Cebu, Iloilo. We're also getting a lot of queries for Pampanga. And we believe that eventually these office requirements will also result in greater residential investments in these areas. And of course, now it's really important that you are in a healthy and safe building. I think we cannot overemphasize the fact that it is very important now that you are in a building where there's enough sanitation, there's enough sunlight. Of course, if you're in a condominium, of course, you have to make sure that your property manager is implementing enough procedures, enough safety protocol, and of course, the implementation of physical and social distancing protocols should really be strict. And I think other trends that we're likely to see moving forward is, looking at the demand that we have been getting from a lot of investors and from OFWs. They're looking at bigger spaces. I agree with tech. There's a greater demand for open spaces. So I think if you go outside of Metro Manila, that end user demand is becoming stronger. It is the OFWs who are end users and who will eventually live once those house and lot projects are completed. We're also seeing a pretty good demand for lot only projects because, a lot of younger Filipinos now are trying to save money and trying to purchase lot only projects because eventually they want to develop their own house, something that is spacious and will really be aligned with what all these protocols are being implemented right now in terms of health and safety. So these are some of the trends that we are seeing right now, and these are for the long haul. I believe that given this pandemic and lockdown, the demand for the safe condominium units or house and lot projects, as well as those that offer bigger space, will just be greater, especially now that this demand for bigger spaces really is a trend right now. We see a lot of foreign investors as well as some local investors, OFWs, really moving towards this kind of projects, and this will be the trend really going forward.
Thank you, Joey. Really interesting look into the future and your insights. So thank you to that. But I think that there is still the theme of this diversification in terms of location, moving out towards the provincial cities. All trends that were here before the pandemic, which are being accelerated. So let's now look, I guess, into the slightly longer term future. The BSP is forecasting GDP to grow at 7.8% for 2021. So I guess a question for the developers in the room, what is it that you're doing now based on this forecast to be able to kind of maximize on this potential and really kind of create that V-shaped recovery into 2021? I'll start with Emma.
Actually, we've been prepared because not only will the changes of the buyers, changing habits of the buyers will be affected by this pandemic even in the future, but also the way you build, the way the developers adopt to new technology of constructing, because in our case, we don't use much of workers. So instead of using 10 people to put up one house, we only use 3 because we just install it with a boom truck and there it goes. And it's very, very relevant to the pandemic right now. So we for that boom, we're actually prepared. We have 3 factories now, which is catering to our subdivisions. We just got stuck with some of the logistics because the banks could not open the letters of credit that we import from Denmark. So it was affected during the 2020 pandemic, but on 2021, I think we can go full blast on the importation of our of all our materials of our factories, and go ahead with the construction, because we have a lot of sales now that we cannot really finance because of the banks. The banks are very slow, so we're delayed in the financing of the project. So we're really waiting for 2021, where all the banks open up and let us really go wild with the sales that we're getting right now, and we look forward to this next year.
Sure. I mean, do you have a forecast for when you think that the banks may open up? What is it exactly that that we're waiting for there?
They're all very, very what do you call it? They're all very strict. They started holding things. Even the opening of the letters of credit are very, very slow. So if you just open up, just like somebody, yeah, that if you open up to all the developers are doing well, I think the country is going to be okay. I mean, we will not be negative this year if the banks are cooperating with the developers. Because if everybody's doing well, but then there's no money circulating, so that's a problem for the developers now.
Okay, thank you, Emma. Relying on the banking sector. The same question to Thomas. What are your plans for the fourth quarter of the year in preparation for perhaps a kind of sharp recovery in 2021?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I guess, well, the first thing is that the BSP, Banco Central, extended the loan exposure for banks from 20 to 25%. So there is government support. I guess there is just that apprehension of what's going to happen next. For me, for our projects, since we have projects that are being completed in 2021, 2022, 2023, and so on, we've been able to match at least our buyers to these projects, because it's a very unique market we're in Metro Manila. Because, for example, a building that will be turned over in 2 years, most of my buyers have children who are in middle school, meaning they will be in college in 2 years, 2 to 3 years. Therefore, there's time. Now, in terms of what's going to happen in the next few months, I also have projects I'm turning over right now. My Davao project, which is high end, is being turned over right now, and it's really just making sure that you take care of your buyers, that you keep them informed, that you tell them what's going on. And we extend this all the way to our building management. When there's something that everyone needs to know and it's important, we actually announce it. We don't keep things from our buyers, nor do we keep things from our residents or our tenants. So it's a matter of just keeping the communication lines open. And I agree with Emma. Okay, the banks may have slowed down. And that's maybe across several industries, but it's more of assessing what is really going on. The fact that the Philippines still has very, very good demographics. We still have 100 or so million people. These people need to live somewhere. These people need to buy cell phones. These people need to eat. So it's all a matter of just giving that confidence in the market. Now, going online and doing things virtually, you've seen how people are now buying things online, which is, people find workarounds. So the same thing does. Instead of, a physical face-to-face meeting, we meet online, even with our buyers, and even payments are done online now. So people are forced to do it. I mean, look at the highways. They're switching to full RFID. So if there's, if it's necessary, people will adapt. From now until the end of the year, people are just waiting for the vaccine. But as soon as that vaccine is found, there will be a huge change in the sentiment of people. And there will be many people who will regret not preparing for that moment. So now is the time for opportunity. Now is the time to really look. I mean, to think of what you can do while waiting for that vaccine. Because once that vaccine comes out, things will just change, and everybody will now say, "Well, it will be regret after regret that they didn't do anything during the pandemic."
So still a large percentage of people on a kind of wait and see mode, keeping everything relevant, staying visible as a brand, keeping your projects out there. Same question to you, Pete. The previous question for Emma and Thomas was what preparations would you be making in the fourth quarter of this year, looking forward to this forecasted economic growth in 2021. But perhaps a kind of slight caveat to that, in that typically the fourth quarter is a slow quarter. The Burr months in the Philippines are difficult, can be difficult across segments. Do you have any forecasts for Phinma in terms of the buyer behavior that we might see over this period, and how that might differ from what we would typically see?
Contrary to answer your caveat, contrary to previous years, I don't think there will be a slowdown in the Burr months, because there's a lot of pent-up activity that did not happen throughout the year. So there are buyers waiting to buyers waiting to move into their units. There are buyers still wanting to buy, but we're not able to because of documentation requirements, because they were not able to visit the project. Even in a digital platform, you still need at least that one visit, that one physical visit to the project. So, you know, a lot of that pent-up activity is there, and I think it's going to unroll in this last quarter. As far as a pickup in growth, well, throughout 2018 and 2019, we prepared a 5-year plan. So all the properties that we wanted for the next 5 years have been acquired or are close to being acquired. Our big problem now is really the permitting process, because government offices are still quite slow with all their work from home and skeleton crew setups. Things are running really slow. We wish that could move a little bit faster. Like Emma, I agree. Construction-wise, go with technology. We've been using a tunnel form system for the last 15-20 years, so we're okay on that because of the lesser manpower requirements. I've repeatedly said the market is strong. What we need is the buyer financing. For me, banks are on a wait and see because they don't know how bad this market will get. My personal opinion is that if anybody was to lose their job temporarily or permanently, they would have already lost it. They would have already lost it. So I think we can move forward now. What is holding up banks from further increasing the exposure to at least to consumer financing is a pending moratorium again. Moratorium, the moratorium will, another 60-day moratorium for monthly amortizations will mask the situation. So because of that, banks are hesitant. In fact, the industry just wrote a letter to the Banco Central and to the Secretary of Human Settlements to please make it selective, not across the board in terms of monthly amortizations for housing loans or to real estate developers for down payments or for monthly amortizations. Those who ask for it, sure. Those who don't need it, and there are some that don't need it, that don't need the moratoriums, let them pay. Let them pay. Let's see what the true picture looks like. Because unless we see what the true picture looks like, the financial institutions are going to hold back. And all of these moratoriums are masking the true picture. So I think that's one of the key important things for us developers right now, that the banks start lending. And I'm not talking about even development loans. I'm just talking of consumer and end user financing to the housing buyer. Make that go on and watch this market take off. Government should pay attention to real estate developers in the same way that they do build. we don't have right-of-way issues or NEDA feasibility studies to contend with. So we can be a good pump primer for the economy. Developers are ready to roll.
Yeah, it sounds like you have some pent up demand in there, Pete. It sounds like you're raring to go as well. You noted there that the infrastructure, the build, and I guess that's one of the pillars that the forecasted growth in the economy will be built on. And then I guess the banking system, as you mentioned, that could potentially be another pillar that is feeding into this information that is providing this forecast of 7.8%. So I guess, Joey, I'd like to get your outlook regarding this forecasted growth. Aside from build, what are the kind of crucial factors or pillars that this growth is built upon, and which of them do you think are perhaps the most fragile in the immediate future?
Looking at the economy now, Mark, okay, so if you look at how the economy performed second quarter of 2020, we recorded the deepest contraction in our country's history. But looking at economic indicators now, there's some good measures that we believe will likely help the property sector. If you look at foreign direct investments, they grew in May of 2020. The unemployment has eased to 10% from 17%, which is another record high back in April of 2020. The central bank also has raised the real estate loans from 20 to 25% limit. So OFW remittances also finally rose in June of 2020 after 3 consecutive months of decline. So all these indicators will probably chip in to an improved demand in the market. We believe that, of course, there has been a slowdown, especially for the first 6 months of 2020. But with all these economic indicators showing some signs of recovery, we hope that this will help kickstart growth in the property sector. Not just that, the lifting of stricter lockdowns in Metro Manila, in Laguna, Batangas, as well as Bulacan. Of course, this will also result in the continued construction of office towers, of residential buildings, of condominium buildings. So this should also prop up the property sector. So all these indicators, both on the demand and supply side, we see some indicators, we see some indications of recovery. And as you mentioned, the central bank is projecting a faster growth of 7.8% in 2021. Some government agencies even projecting a faster recovery fourth quarter of 2020. And of course, we hope that this spills over to the property sector and the segment captures all the economic gains from these sectors.
Thank you, Joe. There's some positive points there. OFW remittance rising, easing unemployment. So I guess some indicators that brighter days are shortly around the corner. That largely brings me to the end of the points to be discussed today, as far as the impact of COVID on the market, the trends that have emerged, and the trends that will remain. I think. As far as trends that have emerged, I think it's more of a focus on the trends that have accelerated as a result. So I'd just like to finish really on a final question. As the lockdown restrictions have eased, what are you most looking forward to? And I'll fire that one at Tech first of all. What is it you're most looking forward to as the lockdown restrictions ease?
Well, Mark, I remain optimistic for the property sector. I mean, with more than 6 million housing backlog, I'm really hoping that we could already go back on track and provide that much needed housing for every Filipino. And I'm also hoping that our developers can actually provide high quality, value for money developments that will allow us to remain resilient, and that would allow us to be able to live safely and healthy and achieve that healthy and well-balanced lifestyle. I also appeal to the government to continue providing aid and continue relaxing measures in terms of to allow Filipinos to be able to reach that goal of having a home of their own. I guess, and then to the developers, of course, to continue creating communities and estates that would allow individuals to, have that convenience, that much needed safety, and to provide everything that their home buyers would need, as this would allow people to be more self-sufficient and to live more sustainably and be more resilient. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Tech. Nice sentiment there. Emma, how about yourself? I know you were telling me before we started, you've recently had a beach break. So perhaps perhaps more work related. What are you most looking forward to for Imperial Homes once the restrictions ease further?
I think the thing that we are really looking forward to is how to cater to the demand of the market, because as we launched our Tough Homes last May, the buyers started seeing the impact of having a sustainable home, especially with the electricity bills going up, and the product that we were selling became so popular that they now are asking if we're going to have in Bulacan, in Pampanga, in Iloilo, and I could not answer them. But we're talking to some foreign investors that maybe one day we could really bring all of this technology we have to the entire Philippines, because we're actually happy that some other developers, affordable housing developers, are looking into solar for their subdivisions, and we're happy that they're going to be doing that. And a lot of them are asking, because we also own a solar company, so they're now asking for a community solar development, which is really emanating from the real demand coming from the buyers. So the buyers would ask, oh, so you have the house? And they're going to say, do you have solar on the house? So that's the second question that they ask from the developer. So it becomes a new normal. Like the buyers now are really demanding if they can have a feature that could save them money. Then the other thing is that healthy homes would be the thing of the future. Having I think I would be answering all the qualities that Tech said. Resilient home, sustainable home, and everything home. Our homes are affordable, but they're really built to last, and so we really hope the developers too will elevate their kind of construction on the houses, because the technologies are already available. So I look forward to serving more Filipinos, but you see, we're waiting for the banks to open, yeah. And currently we're still expanding in some parts of Batangas and Cavite, but not all over the Philippines. So there's that demand, and we can show you the graph that we have on the inquiries.
Yeah.
So it's a good start.
So I guess just servicing the pent-up demand that it has resulted from this pause and this wait and see. Thank you, Emma. So I've got a couple of live questions that have come in from the attendees. One actually from a buyer, one from an investor, and one from a broker. The first question from a buyer is what type of real estate would you recommend during these times? So I'll start perhaps with Tomas on that one.
Yes, well, I would tell that buyer to assess what he or she needs, meaning, and whether it's for an investment or as an end user or to be used by a relative, meaning there's got to be some sort of soul searching. And then where is that buyer retiree? Is that buyer a work from home? And then match his or her needs to whatever is out there. Because the level of quality in the last 10 years has improved dramatically in terms of products. So let's say Emma has her product and Pete has his product. Many in the 25, 30 years I've been doing real estate, the changes in technology is amazing. And what's important is I would tell a buyer, make a list that they would need. First, what they would need themselves and what the other decision makers in their families need. So for example, they may want something, but maybe their families need something else. So they have to write that all down and match it. So it's not a matter of going out and just buying whatever they see advertised, but rather to really reflect on what they need.
Okay, so a more tailor-fit decision, giving it some thought as an end user. I guess there are lots of ways to answer that question. So perhaps then looking at the investment potential, is there any particular segment, Joey, that you see as being a real opportunity to invest in for returns in the long term?
Well, Mark, every residential investor is opportunistic in nature, and we believe that a lot of investors right now are looking for cheaper options in the market. In fact, when we did our second quarter scan, we were seeing about 10-20% discount in some secondary or completed condominium units all over Metro Manila. So just imagine the potential for capital gains, for rental prospects once the market stabilizes. And not just that, we are also seeing opportunities, of course, outside of Metro Manila. So while prices outside of the capital region are still growing, whether it's vertical or horizontal, the pace of increase is slowing down right now. So if you're a Filipino investor or an OFW that has been looking for a residential unit, perhaps now is an opportune time. Also, keep track of the mortgage rates, because while banks have been, of course, wary in terms of lowering mortgage rates, the central bank has been aggressive in cutting interest rates. And we hope that eventually this also results in lower mortgage rates. So that should make the pricing of condominium units, whether within Metro Manila or outside, more attractive, whether it's a pre-selling or a secondary or RFO unit.
Thank you, Joey. The second question is from a broker. Given the new demands of property buyers today, what's your advice to those trying to sell old inventory, especially condominium units? Perhaps Pete would like to have a go at that one.
Because of the new demand today, what's the advice we could give those holding on to units? I was talking to several people about renting condo units, and the reply to me was, what slowdown are you talking about? I've had a tripping to my condo unit every single day. So if you don't need the cash, hold on. If you don't need the cash, just hold on to it. Because prices are not going to go too low. I mean, if you need the cash, sure, sell it, and there already is a slight price drop for secondary home selling. Why? Because you're competing with developers who can give down payment terms over a period of time, whereas typically when you're buying in the secondary market, you gotta pay your down payment spot, and then you're looking at taking out from a bank to cover the balance, or paying everything in cash. So if you don't have to sell, don't sell. But just to go back to what Tomas and Joey said, I agree with them. What is your end user or end game in buying property? Whatever your end game is, buy that property. You can't make a mistake. If your end game is to live in it yourself, if your end game is to lease it out, if your end game is to make a relative live in it, if your end game is to move to Iloilo 6 months from now, whatever that end game is, buy the property, because it's a sound investment. And it's a sound investment because I'm going to relate it now to what Tech said. Tech did say that we have a backlog of 6.5 million. That 6.5 million, I think, was the last recorded backlog in 2016. Every year, we're adding about 100 to 150,000 more units to that backlog. It's just growing. We can't keep up. Our production of developers reaches about, on average, about 250,000 a year. And we have a demand of about 370 or something like that a year. So we can't keep up. So prices are just going to keep on growing. So if you have an end game in mind for your use of that property, go buy it.
Thank you, Pete. A very positive outlook. The time is now. No need to wait, regardless of the end game. So I think that would probably be a good place to wrap up the session on a nice positive and optimistic note. And that brings our second panel to a close, where we've looked at redesign, buoying the market through changes. So I'd like to thank our panelists, Joey. Thank you, Joey. Emma. Thank you, Emma. Tech, Pete, and Thomas for being with us today. Shedding their lights on the new trends and emerging trends and existing trends and into the future of real estate. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
you. Thank you, everybody.